Welcome to PCN In Depth. This month we take a look inside the town of Plymouth. We will get an update on the sewer project on Water Street, hear about programs at the police department that impact the community, and we take a ride with the Plymouth Harbor Master to see what's going on in the bay. Our in-studio guest is Town Planner Robin Carver. We begin with Harbor Master Chad Hunter and Director of the Department of Marine and Environmental Affairs, David Gould. We started at the Harbor Master's office to hear about changes coming this spring to our bay. A major change after approximately 50 years, recreational shellfishing is once again allowed, as is the leasing out of oyster beds.
So new in fall of 2014 was the opening of the inside harbor side of Plymouth Beach for recreational shellfishing. This area has been closed for, as far as we can determine, up to 50 years ago, and we've actually been able to open it due to the water quality in about 3 years of testing with the Division of Marine Fisheries for recreational shellfishing. So the area is actually about halfway. There's the day parking area about halfway down Plymouth Beach, and the newly opened area, it's the entire flat on the harbor side out to Beach Point. So it was open in fall 2014. The spring season has just kicked off as of April 1st, and we've talked to a number of individuals that have been out there enjoying soft shell clams, quahogs, razor clams, and this is very important to us because of the accessibility. Previously it was sakewish, which is really tough to get to. Some of the projects that have caused the water quality to improve have been no discharge area, which means you can't discharge treated or untreated boat sewage. The Harbor Master pump out boat, which is the vehicle to get the sewage from the boat into the wastewater treatment. The Camelot wastewater treatment plant and other stormwater projects that have dealt with mainly roadway runoff to actually increase the water quality. So the newly opened recreational shellfishing area extends from the day parking area on Plymouth Beach, and it works its way to the north, including the entire shoreline on the harbor side of Plymouth Beach.
We're in Plymouth Harbor, and we're looking at an aquaculture lease site that the town's been working on. You can see the gear out on the flat, and what the site does is it has the lease areas where we have farmers growing oysters that eventually they'll grow up to size, market size, and sell to local restaurants, including ones here in Plymouth. The gear is a series of bags and cages where the oysters are actually grown from very small size up to market size, approximately a couple years to get them to that size before they're sold. Well, right now we have 5 leases, but in the next few months you'll start to see the entire flat get leased out very quickly. We've done some permitting to assist the individual lessees, who will then only need to get their Army Corps permit, and then that entire flat will be covered with oyster farmers. Yep. An oyster farmer would have to get out here with all his gear and equipment, set it all up, continually make sure that it's not getting fouled by weather or organisms, that everything is growing the way it should be, and he's got to do that in adverse conditions. So tidal conditions, fall, spring weather. It's farming, but it's on the water, so it's even that much more difficult.
The town has been working hard to remove dams and clear waterways for river herring to migrate and spawn in a natural habitat. This fish is native to our land and is an important food source for several other species.
So we're at the mouth of Town Brook, and we're looking upstream at the Water Street Bridge, which was a project that was done this fall and winter to replace the bridge structure. As part of that, we also constructed a rock ramp to go over the dam that was there. The reason for that was to allow all fish, but especially river herring, to get up to Town Brook during all tide cycle events. Previously, they could only get by at high tide, and this will allow river herring to not only get up to the stream, but ultimately get up to their spawning habitat, which is the real goal, so that that herring run can be sustainable going forward.
Our final topic was sharks. As we approached the swimming season, PCN In Depth wanted to know what was being done to keep our waters as safe as possible, as sharks have been seen in our waters.
So after September last year, we had a shark actually attack a kayak, so for this winter we've been planning for the next beach season, 2015. And most importantly, communication with the community, surrounding community, and also beach protocols. So when do we take a sighting as confirmation, and when do we close a beach, when can we leave it open? And also for this upcoming year, we're going to have shark acoustic receivers. We're working with Division of Marine Fisheries and the White Shark Conservancy to place receivers. And basically what that does, Division of Marine Fisheries tags white sharks off of Chatham with acoustic tags. And anytime a shark will swim by one of these buoys or receivers, it basically hears the ping from the tag, and it's received on the receiver end, and then we get a time, date stamp of when that shark was near that buoy. The big question now is frequency. So how many sharks are out there? We really don't know. I mean, obviously there was a sighting in Duxbury just before the attack in September, and the question is how often are they there, how many individuals, and the limitation of the receiver buoys though are the fact that the shark has to be tagged, so there can also be other great whites in the area that we're not picking up. But we're really trying to get a handle on, or get an assessment on the number and frequency of the sharks. But I would guess for now, you probably will see them, there'll be signs for next year as well.
PCN In Depth met up with Jonathan Beater, Plymouth's DPW director on Water Street, to hear about the plans and timeline of the upcoming sewer project.
Just when folks had gotten used to there not being any construction in this area, it looks like they'll have some to contend with again. This time it won't be as invasive and won't last nearly as long.
Last year we had a contractor come in to relay the sewer interceptor on Water Street, about 1,200 feet south. That didn't go as planned. We wound up removing the contractor last March. We're back again this year to try to do some revisions to that project. We're going to replace this manhole behind me, the sewer manhole. That manhole has settled, and we're going to go back upstream about 25 feet and relay that 30-inch sewer.
The reason for that is there are water connections in the Memorial Hall parking lot that need to be fixed and put back together permanently. Then they'll reset the manhole to the proper elevation.
And we also want to repair this because we are having some groundwater come into the system.
If you work or live downtown, one of the first things you want to know is how bad will the traffic be? Secondly, how long will this last?
What they're going to do is a series of sheeting. Steel sheeting will be driven into the ground. We have some pretty deep excavations, about 30 feet, so we do think some traffic will be affected. We will work with the Plymouth Police Department to provide traffic in both directions. There may be some limitation on the south flow of traffic because that's where a majority of the work is. Work schedules need to be flexible because a lot of the work has to do with the tide, because we have real high groundwater here, so there'll probably be longer days, 10-hour days, maybe even Saturdays. We really want the contractor to accelerate their schedule. Right now our schedule has the project being completed the first week in May, and anything we can do to accelerate that so they're done sooner is better.
Proximity to the coastline is one of the few variables that could increase that timeline because of possible contamination to the groundwater. But Jonathan Beater is pretty confident that the project will get done on time.
We told the businesses and the residents that we won't be out here past May 8th, so that's really a drop-dead date.
Several things stand out about this project, one of which is location, due to the high traffic and businesses. There's also a high groundwater flow which cascades off to the coast. And then there's the artesian effect, where the water pushes upward.
So it's really a constant battle, if you would, where we have to dewater the trench with a series of pumps. We have to keep that water clean. In Water Street, there's a lot of blue clay. The clay has a very fine consistency, so it's hard to trap that and screen that. So that's going to take a lot of time again, where we have to catch that through a series of frac tanks, where the water will get pumped from the wells into a series of frac tanks where we hope the material will settle out before it's discharged back into the drainage system, which ultimately goes into the ocean. The most important part of this project is to control groundwater. We really need to be sure we have the water out of the ground before we start doing any digging. With the depths of about 30 feet, we want to make sure that we don't have groundwater is not an issue. So once we feel comfortable, or the contractor is comfortable that they have control of the groundwater, they'll start their excavation. That'll be a series of trench support systems, trench shield, trench box, steel sheeting. Those will be driven into the ground, and then the excavation will start. And again, this construction work will be to repair the manhole and to replace and repair about 25 feet of sewer.
In downtown Plymouth, I'm Brian Sullivan for In Depth.
Our guest in studio today is Plymouth Town Planner Robin Carver. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate being here.
Good to have you.
Thanks.
We're going to ask you a few things about town planning, starting with what a town planner does. We'll talk about the Court Street pedestrian park that's being planned and the West Plymouth Master Plan.
Great.
So why don't we start with what a town planner actually does?
Great, thanks. So my position, I work at Town Hall in the Planning and Development Division, and I work directly under Lee Hartman, who's the Director of Planning and Development. And I've been there for a little over a year, and he's been a great mentor and great person to work with and very supportive, and he's very knowledgeable. He's been around Plymouth for a long time, and so it's been fun working there. So my basic objectives of my job and what my focus is typically on is plan review and making sure that any of the developments that come in for permitting are in compliance and consistent with our zoning bylaws and our statutory regulations and requirements. So that's the focus of my main part of my job. But then I get to work on some fun projects too on the side, which is great. Some of them are fun and more creative. And for instance, one of those that we're going to talk about is the 308 Court Street Park coming up.
Just before you get to that, how many projects per year would you say pass in front of your desk that you have to review and either approve or not approve? Is that how it works?
Yeah, wow, there's a lot. We've been very busy. We meet with the planning board every other week on a Monday night, and we can have 3, 4, 5 items at a time at least on the agenda. So there's a lot going on in Plymouth, and it's an exciting town. It's big enough, it's got 5 villages, so there's a lot of diversity.
And yeah, and you do both personal planning, like people that own their own property, and commercial?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, both residential and commercial, and private developers, public, and everything. So we really, they go through the gamut.
The whole
with
gamut.
us.
Okay.
Right.
And how long does the process take from when I put a plan in front of you and say, Robin, can I build this, till you say, yes, you can?
It depends on what the permits are required. If they require a special permit, which is a little bit more in-depth with the review process, and we have a peer review company that reviews them. We've got our different departments, engineering and environmental, and those that have to review it. And that can take, 3 or 4 months.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Some are longer, but some are quicker. So,
okay.
Yeah, depending on the issues.
All right. And one of the big plans that you've worked on is this Court Street pedestrian park.
Right.
What is it? Where is it? What is it connected to?
It's in North Plymouth, and I'm working with the Community Preservation Committee in mostly Bill Cohane, who's the chairman. It's their project. They bought this piece of property. It was an old veterinarian's building, and it's up in North Plymouth, right on Court Street. It's a very small, narrow property, and it connects from Court Street back to the Veterans Park that's behind it. And it's a key piece of property that the CPC wanted to do. They cleared the building, and they want to create a pedestrian park access from Court Street to the Veterans Park. And along with that, there's a big parking area back by the Veterans Park that never gets utilized to the capacity it really could. And it would be helpful to have more parking for the businesses on Court Street. So this will become a direct access from the parking lot to Court Street also. And so I'm working with Bill and the steering committee in North Plymouth. All of us work together to come up with an RFP, and we put out for a design.
Which is RFP?
An RFP is a request for proposal.
Okay.
For companies that are interested in doing the design, the park design.
Okay.
And mostly landscape planning and engineering. And Beals and Thomas was awarded the plan. So Beals and Thomas and Bill Cohane and I are working closely with the steering committee and letting them know how we're going through the process. And I'm helping keep the timeline and a time process together so that we keep things moving forward.
Okay.
And it's a great design.
Do we have a picture? We have a picture of
we have a couple pictures.
Okay, the
here
artist rendition of the finished product.
Right.
Okay.
And as you can see on the plan, the walkway sweeps through the property from Court Street back to Veterans Park with lovely plantings and landscape on either side of it and seating areas.
Yeah.
And then at the back portion of it where it connects to Veterans Park, the veterans have asked actually for a monument that's actually existing at the other side of Veterans Park now on Standish to be moved and relocated to this park.
Oh, so when you get through this, before you get to Veterans Park, you'll see the monument.
Yes, you'll see the monument. And they think it's a better location connection to have ceremonies. It's closer to the parade route on Court Street. So it's going to be a beautiful park and a lovely connection from Court Street to Veterans Park.
Beautiful. And that was grossly needed.
Yes,
right,
it was.
Right.
Very much so. Yeah.
And how many spots of parking are in that back parking lot that really haven't been utilized very well because there was no access to Court Street?
Yeah,
a lot?
That's a good question. Probably, there's probably
significant.
6. Yeah, very significant.
Because parking is at a premium.
It is.
Yeah.
And all you have is what's along Court Street, and it's not very much.
No,
and there's
right.
so much back there that could be utilized if you have good access.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when will this project be done?
We're hoping sometime this fall. End of summer, fall. Be great.
Has it begun? Has it actually started?
Not the construction.
Okay.
They have to go through the procurement and the bid process, and once that's done and they identify who will be building it, then it will take a few months to get done probably.
Okay. And
but that's our focus.
One other question on that. So let's use that as an example. From the time that was conceived in someone's mind to going in front of you to get to the point that it is right now, what was the time frame of that?
So the CPC went to town meeting with an article to purchase it, and I believe, because it's before me, I believe it was 2013.
So 2 years ago.
Right.
Okay.
And then last summer, they were able to go in and raise the building and demolish the building that was there and clean up the site because it had some issues with hazardous waste and things like that. So that had to all get done. And then when that got done last summer, I kind of came on board with Bill and helped him create a timeline of keeping the process going of how we can get it done for this summer sometime.
Perfect.
In fall.
Okay.
So it takes a few years.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that, just how long the whole process is. Now, there's a whole bunch of villages in Plymouth. Can you tell me what there's 6?
There's 5.
There's 5 villages. What are they? So, and then tell me what a master plan is before we talk about the West Plymouth Master Plan.
Okay, great. So there are 5 villages in Plymouth. We've got Village Town Center, Cedarville, Manomet, West Plymouth, and North Plymouth.
Okay.
And all the 5 villages have their own master plan under an umbrella master plan for the whole of Plymouth.
Right. Okay.
And over the last 3 or 4 years, each village has had their master plan updated, except for West Plymouth. Their last update was in 1993, so they're well overdue. Well overdue.
Okay.
Right.
Right. Now, what does a master plan? What's in it?
What it does is it identifies, mostly the key thing is identifying goals and objectives of that community and what they want to see happen going forward in their community.
Okay.
Each village has all kinds of resources. It has people. It's got everything in it, and how you pull that all together in a master plan. And there's like 5 or 6 sections typically of a master plan that cover different things such as infrastructure, maintenance and improvements, economic development, public places and recreation and parks, open space and environmental protection, and those kinds of things. In each section, we kind of dive into each one and kind of identify critical items and things that they want to see happen and develop those into a master plan.
And does each village have its own budget, or does that all just come under the town of Plymouth?
Well, no, it's really a town of Plymouth. It is. They don't have their own budget, so it's a lot for them to. They have to really push for things and and
everybody advocates for what they want.
Absolutely,
sure,
absolutely,
okay,
because it's all part of the town.
What is it about the West Plymouth, the whole plan? What's going to be involved in that?
Okay, so I've been working with the West Plymouth Steering Committee, and we've been meeting just about monthly. But before I came on board a few years ago, they did have a brainstorming session that kind of brought the community together, and they voiced their thoughts and opinions of what they wanted to see in their community, the things they liked now that they have, the things they don't like, and try to identify critical issues and things that they'd like to have addressed. So a few of the bigger items that we're looking at now is, for instance, we've got the parks and the recreation and the public spaces right now. They're trying to do what they can to improve those and enhance those. They're looking for bathrooms and things like that, bike and pedestrian access to parks, so we can have a better linking system, not only just for vehicular but for bicycles and pedestrian access.
Sure.
Infrastructure, maintenance and improvements. There are some locations in West Plymouth that they are concerned about with safety and safety crossings and lack of sidewalks and things like that. So along with trying to just maintain roads and keeping up with it, which is a lot to do, those are some of the key areas that they're concerned about. And then we've got economic development, which is a critical part of West Plymouth because they do have a lot of great commercial. They've got the industrial park, they've got the mixed commerce areas, and there's quite a bit going on out there. And it's important that we do that with good planning and bring in good businesses that will help support the community, bringing in a good tax revenue, tax base, bringing in jobs and great services. We've seen a lot of medical industry come, and those kinds of things are really important for our economic development. And we want to make sure it gets done well.
Right. Does the master plan of one village affect the others? I mean, do they all have to be, it's almost like they all have the same look, or they have the same feel, or the same theory, or the same theme? Or are they totally separate?
Well, it's interesting you said that. Some of them do overlap a little bit, but most of them really feel their own identity is very critical and important to them, and they want their own identity. They're proud of their village, and they want it to be their own.
Sure. Now, are there any other master plans that have been worked on recently?
The last one that was just finished was the Manamet master plan, and that was done and finished last year before I started.
Okay. What master plan, or what plans are being done as far as the waterfront goes? Because so much is being done for 2020.
Right.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I'm involved with it a little bit, but not so much. But the waterfront, it's all mostly downtown Plymouth, so that would be in the downtown Plymouth plan. And I don't know if it's part of their master plan or not, but there's a lot of work going on towards upgrading and updating the downtown along the waterfront for 2020. They've got some wonderful ideas and plans with more of a promenade and trying to open up the waterfront to Water Street so that it's more of a connection and not a barrier.
Right.
So some of the plans for that, like they've done so far with creating the roundabout and some of the landscaping and lighting down there, that'll get continued on further down and create this whole promenade along the waterfront, which will be wonderful.
Beautiful. Absolutely
and very
beautiful.
much needed. I think that'll really help bring everybody down there more.
Right.
It'll be great.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you said that as the town planner, you meet with the planning board every couple of weeks. Is there anything down the pike that hasn't come up yet that is going to come in front of you in the next 6 to 12 months? Anything that you can think of?
Well, there's plans, there's things that come forward, and there's nothing that I can say that's not public yet, but we have things that are coming forward that are starting the process now that are more residential development. Some commercial. The one thing that probably will be coming is the Colony Place people had put the article to town meeting for the mixed commerce property that's right across the street, the park and ride property across from Colony Place.
Excellent.
Right. So they did get awarded that through the town meeting to have that rezoned to mixed commerce. So what they're wanting to do there is to do something that's very reflective of what they've done on the other side of the road, because that's an eyesore there right now. It's really not that appealing.
And that'll end up being beautiful, just like Colony Place is.
Absolutely, and that's their focus and what they're going to be doing there. So I think that, and there's just been going through a site plan review for one of the car dealerships in Colony Place that have been on the books kind of for the last year or so, trying to get that figured out. So that will probably start to happen.
Okay, and that'll be down the road.
Yeah.
Okay, so lots to look forward to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We've learned a lot today.
Well, thank you.
I'm sure we'll have you on again.
Great. Thanks so much, Julia. Appreciate it.
Thank you. To close our show this month, we stopped into the Plymouth Police Department to learn about the Street Crime Unit, which is coming up on its 1 year in operation anniversary, and also to learn how road races get set up in town, a popular destination for race fundraisers.
The Plymouth Police Department is tasked with working with the Office of Economic Development and the Fire Department and EMS to coordinate and organize special events within the town. Plymouth being a tourist community in a seaside town, the aesthetic quality of Plymouth makes it a very attractive location to have such special events. Basically, our main goal is to make sure that these events are done safely, that if road closures are needed, parking restrictions need to be in place. We would work with the organizers of these races to make sure that we have a good, safe route with adequate coverage of police personnel if necessary to ensure that, again, that these events go off safely and that all participants in the events enjoy the event as a whole. There is a permitting process involved for all those involved. It is usually coordinated through the Office of Economic Development. There are fees involved depending on when the application is filed, and also there are needs to meet with the fire department, EMS, park and recreation departments, and things of that nature, depending on what facilities are being used, where and when. The permitting process generally would involve the filling out of an application. There would be a recommendation to meet with the police department to talk about routes or traffic issues if necessary. I would always encourage someone that is trying to do a new event in Plymouth, if it involves utilizing the roadways and streets and things of that nature, that where they may require closing roads or detouring traffic, that they meet with the police department prior to filing their application, so that they can go in with a packet that's a sound, good route before having to alter plans and things of that nature.
Next, we met up with the Street Crimes Unit, which is almost a year old, to see how the program has been working.
Street Crimes Unit was started in here in Plymouth in July of 2014 as a reaction to the epidemic with the heroin, particularly the overdoses here in town. We realized that we had a significant problem with open-air drug markets where people, without necessarily knowing their dealer, would just be able to meet up at any given location to be able to obtain drugs, in particular heroin. So we began the unit working primarily at night to help try to curb the drug problem there. The second part of our mission is a lot of the nuisance-type crimes in the downtown area when the bars are in full swing during the summertime. We had a great deal of arrests this past summer, July and August, right up through Labor Day. A great deal of those were from the downtown, the nuisance-type crimes. A lot of positive feedback from the bar owners, from the restaurant owners, and local residents that noticed a good deal of difference, especially at the end of the night where their property was being vandalized, the fighting and everything, the noise complaints afterward. They said by the end of the summer they were noticing a significant difference.
What would really help the Street Crimes Unit is if we get calls from the public to be specific with times, places, maybe a vehicle involved, that they're actually seeing some of this suspicious activity that they need addressed. And in doing so, they can still remain anonymous, but the more specific they are, the times, it makes it easier for us to go in and handle if need be.
We also met Canine Officer Shirley, who has an important role with the Street Crime Unit.
Shirley has the ability to sniff a person, so if somebody had something hidden in their pants, socks, shoes, or any other place that they might want to hide it, she has the ability to help us by sniffing it out with her nose versus us patting somebody down. As a pat down for an officer, we might pat somebody down, we're looking for some weapon or a bulge in a pocket. Shirley has the ability and has done it on the side of the road where we've done a person search and then gone back and she's indicated to the person and found a half a gram of heroin in somebody's change pocket that during a pat down you're going to miss because it's very small, but she has the nose that's going to pick it up. So she's certified in narcotic odor. So with that comes, the heroin. Percocet has opiate base, so she can do pills, she can do cocaine, she can do marijuana, she can do Suboxone that's out there. Buprenorphine is what it's actually called. So she has the ability to help us in many ways.
Thanks for watching PCN In Depth. We hope you learned a bit more about Plymouth and what is going on in town. Replay times are listed on PACTV's website, and you can find the show on YouTube. We'll see you next month as we take an in-depth look at the town of Kingston.